It's enough, I think. It's enough, I think.
Hello, everyone. I'm flying solo today, and welcome to the Green Life stream. Kalia Fitzgerald was going to be our co-host. Hopefully she shows up soon. Haven't heard from her today, but stuff happens. And my other co-host, Mr. Scott Free, is doing a recording session because he is also a musician. So he's going to be sorely missed today. I love his commentary. But we do have a lot to cover, so you're only going to get my perspective so far, and we'll just see how it goes. Please feel free to comment and share, like, subscribe, pass along the word. The work that we do here. So, things are not going well in the country for sure. And that's why I titled, the first part of our live stream, Stranded in Trump's America. A lot of people are feeling that way now. So our first story is about people that were asked to self-deport. The first part of the article, this is from, let's see. So this is from SheerPost, written by Melissa Sanchez and Mariam Elba from ProPublica. And the first part talks about a mother of two from Venezuela. She couldn't survive on her own in Chicago anymore. She'd been relying on charity for food and shelter ever since her partner had been detained by immigration authorities after a traffic stop earlier this year. Perez is 25, thought it would be safer to return to Venezuela with her children than to stay in the U.S. Her request for asylum was still open, and she had a permit to work legally, but so did lots of other Venezuelans getting picked up on the streets and taken into custody. Authorities were detaining immigrants regardless of whether they'd follow the rules or not. So that tells a lot about her story and all the trials and tribulations of what she's going through. But let me see if I can find it. So before their departure dates came and went, they had made preparations to leave, turning over the keys to their apartments, pulling their children from school, shipping their belongings to Venezuela, and they have sunk deeper into poverty as the weeks and months pass. And then it moves on. Same thing in LA. A family of four slept in their tiny Toyota Echo for weeks to save on rent as they waited for their departure date. So this is like, this offer of self-deportation, right? Like basically saying, we don't want you here, and they're trying to leave and they can't. So nearly 2 months after their return to Venezuela, they said they're still waiting for the exit bonuses they'd hoped would help them start over. So there was a promise of money if you self-supported. I think it was $1,000. For people that are desperate, that's huge. And then it goes on to talk about a mother of two in Youngstown, Pennsylvania, said she didn't enroll her 8-year-old son in school this fall because she assumed they would be gone by now. She recently moved into a friend's apartment in New York City and plans to turn herself into immigration authorities and ask to be deported. I don't want to be here anymore, the woman said between sobs. What am I supposed to do? Several immigration attorneys and advocates told ProPublica that they don't trust the CBP Home app or the Trump administration's promises to help immigrants self-deport. The National Immigration Law Center recently published a guide explaining some of the potential risks of using the app, such as leaving the country without closing an immigration court case and becoming ineligible for a future visa. Some lawyers said that they discourage clients from using the app at all. I mean, that just speaks to what's going on. It's just hostile to people that are trying to do the right thing. You can take that down, Hazel. And thank you, Hazel, for being here, our producer. Without Scott and Hazel, I don't know if this would be happening today. That's too much for one person for sure. But yeah, it just speaks to the hostility in the country towards immigrants that came here the right way, even. So it does not, that narrative, oh, they're the illegals. Well, no person is illegal. But even people doing it the right way, it's basically racial profiling at this point, and they are violating the Constitution every single day. Picking up people off the street with no warrants, no papers, no due process for when they get there. It's illegal detention, and they just think the rules don't apply to them. Um, so I wanted to move on a bit. So you can find most of this on Facebook in the description on the Facebook event, but everything that's in this show, all the links will be on the YouTube in the description. So this next article is from ProPublica. We found more than 170 U.S. citizens have been held by immigration agents. They've been kicked, dragged, and detained for days. So there's another hole in their narrative. I'll just read a little bit here. When the Supreme Court recently allowed immigration agents into the Los Angeles area to take race into consideration, doing sweeps, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, I think you all remember him, correct? There was a big, he started the Women's March, basically. Brett Kavanaugh said that citizens shouldn't be concerned. If the officers learn that the individual they stopped is a U.S. citizen or otherwise lawfully in the United States, Kavanaugh wrote, they promptly let the individual go. But that is far from the reality many citizens have experienced. Americans have been dragged, tackled, beaten, tased, and shot by immigration agents. They've had their necks kneeled on. They've been held outside in the rain while in their underwear. At least 3 citizens were pregnant when agents detained them. One of those women had already had the door of her home blown off, while Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem watched. These are Americans. About 24 Americans have said that they were held for more than a day without being able to phone lawyers or loved ones. Videos of U.S. citizens being mistreated by immigration agents have filled social media feeds, but there is little clarity on the overall picture. The government does not track how often immigration agents hold Americans, so ProPublica created its own account. We compiled and reviewed every case we could find of agents holding citizens against their will, whether during immigration raids or protests. While the tally is almost certainly incomplete, we found more than 170 such incidents during the first 9 months of President Donald Trump's second administration. Among the citizens detained are nearly 20 children, including 2 with cancer. That includes 4 who were held for weeks with their undocumented mother and without access to the family's attorney until a congresswoman intervened. Immigration agents do have authority to detain Americans in limited circumstances. This is key, okay? Just doing a traffic stop because you're brown or black or whatever, or you look like you might be a foreigner, that is not good enough. Agents can hold people whom they reasonably suspect are in the country illegally. We found more than 50 Americans who were held after agents questioned their citizenship. They were almost all Latino. Immigration agents also can arrest citizens who allegedly interfered with or assaulted officers. We compiled a case of about 130 Americans, including a dozen elected officials, accused of assaulting or impeding officers. And I don't know if you all have been watching, but yeah, they have not told the truth about any of it. If you watch our show regularly, You saw that priest or that pastor just like talking to the guy on the roof, and he shot him with a pepper ball and knocked him down. Could have killed him. It wasn't that far. Um, and the thing about the woman attacked them and surrounded them, that was also not true. And you've seen them tear gas the street in Chicago near an elementary school because they didn't like waiting in traffic. I mean, this is just blatant, you know, just privilege. They think they're immune. And often here we talk about how, you know, this is similar tactics to what's going on in Gaza. And that's why so many people are up in arms about what's going on in Gaza. Not only is it wrong and unfair to the Palestinian people, they're being attacked on their own land and have been for going on, 77 years now, I believe it is. Um, they're learning how to do that there so they can come do it here. You know, it's the wolves are at our doorstep. So, um, yeah, let's keep moving on. Let's see. So I'm used to somebody to talk to. I miss you, Scott. Just saying. uh, so we have. You want to bring up that graphic? Let's see. Well, I can do it. I'll do this one. So this is from the Chicago Tribune. Chicago news media groups filed suit against ICE and Homeland Security, claiming excessive force against reporters and protesters of immigration arrests. So, First Amendment, we are allowed, our press should be allowed everywhere. They should not be restrained. They don't want the American people in general to know what's going on. So, I mean, last week, if you watched last Saturday, you saw that camera person down on the ground being arrested from WGN, like, for what? And then they hit a car as they were leaving. So, my question is to Governor Pritzker and the powers that be, Mayor Brandon Johnson, why are we not using our National Guard, our state police, our local police forces to protect the citizens? We have a right to protest. If we want to march down the street, this is my opinion, not the opinion of ILGP, but if citizens want to march down the street, the police should be clearing the traffic and letting them. They are supposed to be there to serve the people. And it appears that they are there to serve the system and allow ICE and to pick up people with no charges, break the law, assault people. And that's another thing. Where is the responsibility of our state police and you can take that down, Hazel, if you want, and our local police forces arresting ICE agents for breaking the law? You assault someone, seems like you should be getting picked up. Yeah. So do you have that Brian Kilmeade ready to go? So this is kind of, it's not the same issue, but it's related. And I can't tell you how shocked I was to hear this. Shocked, but not surprised in a way, because we kind of always knew that that's who these people are. Our government has abandoned its people, and especially our most vulnerable populations, which are the homeless. Go ahead and play that, Hazel.
Billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you got to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right. I would say this. We're not voting for the right people. In North Carolina, wake up.
Billions of dollars to mental health.
Wow. You can go ahead and take it down. So I had some stuff going on in Carbondale over the past week or so. The city was planning a sweep of one of the homeless encampments, and the local activist community here wanted to see if they could help them, like help them go somewhere else if they needed it, help protect them from anything that seemed unfair. And it's the same question, where are they supposed to go? You know, my city has a lot of abandoned buildings, and you know, how did it get to this point? If they were abandoned, they just let them deteriorate. You know, there are some good programs in my city in Carbondale, you know, for turning like a rental into a homeowner situation. You can get breaks on getting a more, you know, buying a house and stuff like that. But the most vulnerable among us should be our priority, because, you know, if you're not taking care of that, what does everything else matter? You know, we have empty buildings here, and we have people without a place to live. So me and some other folks from the activist community went to city council, the city council meeting on Tuesday. You know, I made an impassioned plea, did some research. Lots of people are saying that housing first is how you solve the problem. They need a place to stay. They need stability, because that starts this process of being able to relax, feeling safe. And then they're more open to, you know, any services that are available. But when you come with these services that doesn't get them off the street, they're not going to listen as much as they would if they had some stability. And you know, talking to the unhoused people themselves, they're like, everything is temporary. Everything they come to offer us doesn't do the one thing that we need. We need a place to live. And it is not their failure. It is our failure. As a government, as a society, as a community, it is our responsibility to make sure everyone has basic necessities. We are the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and we have people living on the street. I just had a good friend yesterday was talking about, she visited Bulgaria, and they had plans to go to this restaurant to get some authentic Bulgarian food. You know, this person was giving them the tour of the city they were in. And she said, "Oh, we can't go there." My friend's like, "Why?" She's like, "Well, there's people eating there that don't have a home." And she was embarrassed. Why are we not daily embarrassed? Why are our politicians not embarrassed? You know, they always give the money argument. They can find money for war. They can find money for bombs to Israel. They can find money for tax breaks for people that don't need the damn money, for billionaires. And by the way, Pritzker is a billionaire. Never forget it. So, you know, let me see what else we got going. So this is what they do. They've been criminalizing homelessness. It's just gotten worse and worse. So this is from a SharePost article, Farrah Hassen from OtherWords. I'll just read you a couple of paragraphs here. For too long, our government policies have allowed a basic necessity for survival to become commodified and controlled by corporations and billionaire investors. We must challenge this if we ever want to resolve homelessness. Housing is a fundamental human right under international law that the U.S. must recognize. Homelessness is solvable in our lifetime if our country commits to ensuring that every person has a safe, affordable, dignified, and permanent place to call home. As housing experts have long noted, governments should invest in proven and humane solutions like Housing First, which provides permanent housing without preconditions, coupled with supportive services. Um, it's like they find reasons not to do the work, and it was the same conversation that's good, Hazel. Same conversation I was having with one of my city council members that I just met on Tuesday night. He was wrapped up in theoretical things. We actually had two of the unhoused people come, and one of them spoke and just basically said, "Where am I supposed to go?" But he was wrapped up in the theoretical. Well, what about the neighborhood if we put a homeless shelter there? What about the people that are one emergency away from being homeless? How's that going to affect them? Where's your proof of that? Like, so you're saying that this person's life is more important than that person's life. Who gives you the right to make that judgment in the first place? And it's always about the money. They complained that the money they've invested in like the warming center and other programs here in our city, that he told me they were failures. I'm like, if they saved lives, they're not failures. They saved lives. Maybe there's a better way to do it. Absolutely. Spending $10,000 to clean up a unhoused camp is a waste of money. If you would just spend that money on getting them a place to live, then you wouldn't have to spend it on that. And that becomes more of a permanent solution. Our government is kind of like business, the way business is operating now. They only see the next quarter. They have no long-term vision, and it's all about money. Anyway, we can keep moving on. I could go on about that. But I'm sorry Kalia's not here. I guess we had a mix up in the time. But yeah, so this is something that she wanted to talk about. The government shutdown and how it is affecting SNAP benefits. So this is from Fox 31 in Denver. No SNAP benefits to be issued in November as government shutdown stretches on. They do have a video. I don't know if you want to play it, Hazel, but either way. Can you make it big? Oh, they got to get their ads in. I can't hear anything. Is the sound on?
Wins.
You know, and you can take it down. The You know, they're doing the finger pointing thing about the shutdown. Of course they are. You know, Republicans are acting like they don't have any power and that it's all the Democrats' fault. Democrats are only trying to protect one thing, Obamacare, which not really, because they're trying to protect the subsidies that go to Obamacare that make it somewhat affordable. The Obamacare bill that was passed is basically the Unaffordable Care Act. And you don't hear any conversation about a universal health care. I mean, you know, if they would just, this is why Democrats really, the Democratic Party, people that are in the Democratic Party, not the voters. Let me make that perfectly clear. The party does not own your vote. No party owns your vote. You do. But the leadership of the Democratic Party, they don't know how to go on offense. And I think that's by design. I've been watching this all my life, and they always find an excuse like the parliamentarian. That's why we can't have a $15 an hour minimum wage. Or, you know, we're not, you know, we're not going to withhold our vote for Nancy Pelosi to be the Speaker of the House back in, I think it was, what year was that? Was it 2020? Because, we have to fall in line. You know, the Progressive Caucus wouldn't do force the vote, even though there was a big call from all kinds of people like Breonna Joy Gray and Jimmy Dore and just regular people saying, we want Medicare for all on the floor and to be voted on. Let's use what little leverage that we have in this moment, because they need your vote to make Nancy Pelosi the Speaker of the House, and the Progressive Caucus would not do it. To this day, Medicare for all has never been voted on. And the Medicare system that we have now has been, it's better than the private insurance, but they've had their claws in it. Medicare Advantage takes billions from the Medicare system. And that's why you still have to pay. I mean, you paid into it for your whole working life, right? And people say, well, I still pay for my Medicare. You shouldn't have to. You paid for it your entire life. That's what private industry does. They try to get into these public programs and destroy them. Same thing that's going on with the post office. The post office is independent. And they don't like that because it's a public service. They're not a business. They're not supposed to make a profit. They are there to serve the people. That's it. And they create their own funding. They don't need taxpayer money, but that's still not good enough. They forced the post office under George Bush to fund their pensions for 75 years into the future. Can't think of any other business that was forced to do that, or anyone. I mean, that's people that hadn't even been born yet. And now they're trying to privatize it again. So that's how they roll. What happens when you privatize things? Costs go up, service goes down. Same thing they're doing to VA. It's the commoditization of all of our public services. But anyway, yeah, it's just, and who does this hurt? Who does, no SNAP benefits hurt? SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, provides food benefits to low-income families, giving them a supplemental grocery budget to be able to afford essential food. According to the Colorado Department of Human Services, over 620,000 Coloradans, just in Colorado, have SNAP benefits, with over 117.93 million of support dispersed so far this year. I don't know if they go into how many people across the country, but that's just one state. Can you imagine? Yeah. And even that isn't paying the grocery bill. It is a few bucks to help you make sure that you don't starve to death. So anyway. So I wanted to bring up the National Low Income Housing Coalition, Out of Reach. They talk about the high cost of housing. So the dark blue ones are where it's the highest. I believe number one is California, which that's where our buddy Butch Ware is running for governor. And I'm not surprised, but it still is very upsetting that even the unions won't let him debate the Democrats on stage. You know, this is not the way it works in most places. There's no primary, no party primary. It's called a jungle primary. So the top 2 vote getters in the primary will go to the general election. So in California, you can click on, or you got it highlighted. Yeah, good. Thank you. So in California, it's the most expensive place to live, and it has the highest housing wage. You need to make $49.61 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. And at the current minimum wage in California, you would have to work 120 hours a week. So let's move over to Illinois. Illinois is 19th highest wage. You would need to make $29.81 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. And you, at the current minimum wage, which they do have the $15 an hour here, which, you know, that's better than a lot of places. Still not good enough, obviously. You'd have to work 79 hours a week. Yeah. So that's at least 2 people. And, you know, finding a full-time job for almost $30 an hour, where can you find that? I mean, one thing that I mentioned, and this is how homelessness grows, by the way. If you can't afford a place to live, that's how you become homeless. My city that I live in has a 36.81, I think it is, poverty rate. You can take that down. That's fine. So that's over 1/3 of our population. You know, so that's why businesses are failing. Like, there has to be some kind of holistic solution. And tearing down abandoned buildings and spending $18,000 to do that, just to, you know, build affordable housing. Well, I need the details on that. So if y'all's listening, I'm going to be back. I have more questions. Let's see. So that's the state of our nation. But here's another reason why we can't get any of these things done. I mean, we need a living wage, we need universal health care, and we need guaranteed housing. We need the basics covered. And here's why our politicians are not doing that. So you want to play the U.S. senators are betraying our nation? Surprise, it's Tucker Carlson.
I think Bibi is completely evil and completely destructive. And he's hurting the United States, and he's destroying his own country, and I think he imperils the world. Okay, so I think that clearly they're going to try and blow up Al-Aqsa Mosque. I believe that. On the Temple Mount to build a 3rd temple, and then you've got global war. So, like, he's a threat. But am I madder at him or Lindsey Graham? It's not even close.
I was going to mention...
Bibi Netanyahu is a foreigner, and he's trying to do what he should do for himself and his country. I get that. What's Lindsey Graham's excuse? What's Ted Cruz's excuse? Ted Cruz says right into the camera, I was elected, my main goal was to help Israel.
I came into Congress with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Right.
And I've worked every day to do that.
Really?
Ted
How
Cruz
come you
was
get elected on a platform in which
you...
you say publicly, my main goal is to help another country? This is deranged. Where's our self-respect? I don't want to even think about it. I'm not interested. I'm very interested in how American leaders could betray their own country. That enrages me. I think Bibi is completely evil and completely destructive. And he's hurting...
Thanks, Hazel. Yeah. So, yeah. So So that's Lindsey Graham, but I don't know if we found that one, but there's one of Ted Cruz saying he wants to get elected so he can serve Israel. And then there's Brian Mast from Florida. I don't remember if he's still sitting congressperson, but he wore an IDF uniform into our government, into the halls of Congress. So how can you serve this nation if your first priority is a foreign country? You know, it's basically Israel first at this point, and you know, I don't know why somebody isn't, you know, charging them, you know, as foreign agents or something. Like, first of all, they shouldn't keep their seat at the bare minimum. Do you want to play the next one? Oh, it's an article. Okay, let me check it out. So Matt Gaetz reveals humiliating QR code AIPAC donor ritual. Oh, there is a video there. Is it a short? If it's a short, we can play a little bit of it. If you scroll down a little, it's right there. Make it big.
Former Congressman Matt Gaetz, in an appearance on Tim Pool's podcast, making some interesting revelations about his experience with AIPAC. Let's take a listen.
I remember my first AIPAC reception, and like your fundraiser tells you have to go, and your chief of staff tells you have to go, your committee chairman all tell you have to go, and you get there and you wear this name badge, and I remember there's a QR code on it, and what we were supposed to do was go talk to donors, and then if they liked you, they scanned your QR code to make a donation, like on the spot. And so can you just imagine how demoralizing that is to like be told that your job for the next several hours to go chat people up, hoping they would scan you like a can of tomato soup on the way out of the meeting.
I mean, it's literally purchasing.
Right. And so I saw that and I was like, wow, that is so freaking weird.
Literally making the choice on the spot, whether or not they're going to buy this congressman. I mean, it's just like, and to be honest with you, this is not really any different from the way that other fundraising works. I mean, I ran for Congress, right? I've been to these events where you go and you try to meet and network with donors who typically give, in my case, to Democratic candidates. And you're schmoozing. There's a whole dance around it. Like, let me get your information. And that means so I can call you later and beg you for dollars. They just cut right to the chase. Like, you're just going to wear a QR code. And then if I like what you have to say, which with regard to AIPAC would be Israel now, Israel forever, you can genocide whoever you want. We don't care. We'll back you up even when it's completely unreasonable. As long as you're willing to say those words, then they'll scan your QR code and give you some dollars right there on the spot. They've got this down to a science, Sagar.
Well, according to AIPAC, the QR code is for security purposes only, and that it is false. They say that they
What do you mean for security purposes?
I don't know. In terms of, listen, I'm simply.
Have you ever needed your own personal QR code to feel secure?
Maybe I should. Maybe I should. They say that they include AIPAC security. Yes, they say the accusation about fundraisers is, of course, a lie. Barcodes are on the name badges for security reasons, not fundraising. They are scanned for that purpose. Maybe Matt Gaetz was confused because he wanted people to scan his barcode, and they didn't want to talk to him.
Well, I'm glad you got their denial in. Thank you. Cover our bases here.
Yeah. Matt Gaetz's response is, IDK AIPAC, I read something in the history books that putting codes on people was really bad. Ooh, boy, wow.
Right?
He went there. He
did.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that it's, in general, it's like you described.
Go ahead and take that
and this
down.
gets to the
It's
whole
not
AIPAC
streaming
conversation.
properly, Hazel.
And everyone.
Yeah, sorry about that. When you don't live in the city, a lot of times your internet is not the best. There's another thing we could be fixing, right? But yeah, I mean, basically, what do you have to say about Israel? Oh, no, we're not going to support you. And actually, they will probably scan you and take your name to make sure that you don't get elected. And it's that pay to play, you know, and you have to bow down to a foreign nation to get elected in our country. That doesn't seem American, you know. Just saying. Yeah, so, and also we have, this is from X. Congress trades military stocks. So this is from Wall Street Apes. Whoa. U.S. Rep Tim Burchett exposes Congress reps give military contractors no bid contracts and then buy stocks in those companies right before awarding the contracts. He says Congress makes 500 to 600% return on their investments when doing this insider trading scam. Tim Burchett says Congress did this during the Ukraine war. I'll give you a good example. When Joe Biden gave our missile defense system to Ukraine, we give them our missile defense system and then we have to replenish ours. Some of those contractors we described get a multi-billion dollar with a B, no bid contracts. And who do you think has bought stock in that company? Members of Congress. 2 weeks prior to the president making that official notice. They're making a 500 to 600% return on investment. War is great business. It's great for the economy, but it's not good for, I don't think it's good for ourselves. You know? Yeah. Saying it's good for business is not good enough. Yeah, thank you, Steve. Because you can make a lot of things good for business, but does it serve the people? And I remember this one time I used to work in a grocery store, and I'd take my break at the little coffee shop they had inside this big grocery store. And I always see this one guy there, and he said he studied economics. And so I asked him a theoretical question, and he couldn't really answer it. He actually got a little mad at me. But I said, so let me ask you, are people here to serve an economy, or is the economy here to serve the people? I believe in the latter. We should organize an economy that serves the people. Once you get elected, that's hilarious. Thank you, Kenneth. Once you get elected, the QR code becomes a QR tattoo. Oh, goodness. Well, that's why we're green, because we don't do that here. We get, our donations are from regular people. We don't take corporate, billionaire, super PAC money. Not allowed to. You run in the Green Party, you have to sign on the dotted line saying you will not do that. That is a standard in the Green Party. That is also why all those people don't want us to get elected. But that's where you all come in. We're going to need petitioning help. We need volunteers. You don't have to live in the state to help us text bank or phone bank. And if you're in a state close by, you don't have to live here to circulate petitions coming up in February. As you know, I'm running for lieutenant governor in the Green Party. I'm still got the endorsement process to go through, but so far I'm the candidate. And I don't know if you all watched Wednesday's show. We had our governor candidate. She just became recognized on Sunday. So, you can come help us get on the ballot. We're going to need people, if you live in a nearby state, to come collect signatures, because, the corporate war parties do not make it easy. It's a 20-to-1 ratio in the U.S. Senate. For every one signature Democrats and Republicans have to collect, we have to collect 20 of them, and they will be challenged. So if you want better representation, people that listen to you and serve the people and not, the corporate donorship class, you have to, elect Greens, and we're hoping we can get your support. The other thing we also need is money, because they have those deep pockets. We do not. We do a lot on a very small budget. So if you're able to support us through a donation, you also do not have to live here. You do have to live within the United States to donate. So if you want to scan that QR, or I will change the banner, and right there, you can go to ilgp.org to become a member, get involved, and or donate. So we'll keep moving along here. I think the next thing what's the next thing Butch Ware? Yeah. So Butch is running for governor of California. And this relates back to the Israel thing. I don't know if you saw that video with Gavin Newsom. It was kind of horrific. And he's saying, "Great week for Team Blue." Gavin squirms like the snake he is when asked about why he takes AIPAC money and can only say, "It's interesting" that he was asked about it. He said interesting like 6 times. It was hilarious and disturbing. Cory Booker chokes on his own tongue when asked about AIPAC and Netanyahu. Katie Porter, which a lot of people support in California, says she stands with Israel. So she's cool with the genocide. She's cool with starving 2 million people. She's, so they all are. What's it matter to me? Those people are over there. So if they're not going to stand up against a genocide, what makes you think they will ever stand up for you? And then, the new progressive hope in New York City, Zohran Mamdani. I'm going to have people in my administration who are Zionists. And Butch is asking, please help me put this Zionist abomination of a political party out of its misery. Yeah. So we gotta use our critical thinking skills. We gotta stop. You take it down. We gotta stop buying into the lesser evil narrative. This has been going on for nearly a century, and it gave us Trump twice. And every time you vote lesser evil, you're still voting evil. And the only way that the established parties will listen is to withhold your vote and put it somewhere else. Once Illinois Green Party gets on the level playing field, they're going to have real competition because, if you've been paying attention, they work together. Biden, while Biden was president, he made sure there was presidential immunity. What do you think Trump is using now? That's a clear example that one of them sets it up and the other one does the bad thing. So, and they also won't fight for us. Obama, I fell for the Obama stuff for a while. I admit I voted for him twice. I thought he was going to be good, but I watched the universal health care debate just crumble. And then it became Obamacare, which did help people, but only because it was subsidized. And he had a super majority control. He could have passed anything he wanted. He promised to pass, codify Roe v. Wade, didn't do it. Could have raised the minimum wage, didn't do it. Could have given us universal health care, didn't do it. Could have done card check for unions. So if you're a union person, that was on the table. Could have happened. Democrats dropped the ball, just like they've been dropping the ball ever since I've been aware of them. So Butch thinks they're going to go the way of the Whigs and become an obsolete party. And I'm not saying that Greens have all the answers, but at least we're fighters and our platform has the things that people want in it. And I would expect the public to hold us accountable when we get elected. If there's something we're missing, something we're misunderstanding, something we're not working on that you think we should, you got to let us know. But first, we have to get into office. Thanks, Steph. Got some new names in the chat. I love it. Yeah, so let's see. What else do we have? The top donor to Israel's military is buying up U.S. media outlets. This is from Dropside News. This is a little short from, if you got that one ready, Hazel.
Their vast wealth and considerable political influence, the Ellisons have become central figures in the fight back by American supporters of Israel against soaring negative sentiment.
So Larry Ellison, who's the founder of Oracle, is on and off the richest man in the world. Looks fantastic, as many billionaires do. Several years ago, he became the largest donor ever to Friends of the IDF, which is an American charity that directly supports the IDF militarily. He has said the greatest honor in his life is being able to do that sort of thing.
You know, I feel a deep emotional connection to the state of Israel and the Israeli people.
You know, we just
Yeah, you can pull it down because it's still not playing
Ellison
properly,
has
but
in the past
yeah.
played a role.
Yeah. So, I mean, didn't he just buy TikTok? I believe. So I'm not going to get through everything. I am going to a protest. I am going to be in Carbondale dressed as a frog. And we kind of got this idea from Portland, Oregon. They're going dressed up in inflatables to stand against ICE and what's going on in our country. And, you know, I mean, this is a biblical quote. Some of you may know about it, some of you may not, but not that, and you know, we just pull this stuff from Twitter or whatever, but you know, kind of making a joke of what's going on. Oh, I forgot to put this one up. Hazel, I don't know if you can get this other one to go. They're also dressing as clowns to stand by ICE, which was really funny. Let me see if I can get this up real quick. Give me just a second. It was really cute. Yeah, so you know, No Kings definitely has a lot of people going to it. I would ask you, what are they really asking for? So I thought this was really cute. And in Portland, they have like a whole section where they have costumes you can just wear to join the protest. But, you know, a little bit of humor goes a long way. And we're about out of time. Sorry, Kalia wasn't here. I guess there was a miscommunication. She was supposed to be here. So we do have a time difference though. So maybe we got confused on that. She'll probably show up in a minute. But keep fighting. Don't lose hope. You know, everybody, these things need to be uncovered for anything to go forward in a holistic and healing way. Our country needs to heal. We need better representation. We need people that will answer and serve to the people of the United States, people that care about the unhoused, people that want everyone to have health care, people that don't think you're a criminal just because you didn't come from here. You know, there's a lot of things that need to be, you know, there needs to be some kind of reckoning for how we founded this country. You know, the way we treated the Native Americans, the way that we enslaved African Americans. So much horribleness has happened in this country. But basically, I think the people are good people. It's just a minute few that do these really horrible things. And all the good people need to get together and make them stop. So you do that by protesting. You do that by divesting, personal divestment. You can go to BDS and find out the companies that are doing bad things and do some personal divestment. And you can do that by volunteering, donating to the Green Party, because we are now the third largest party in the country. We have the most ballot access capability, and we believe in a multi-party system. So even when we become established, we're not going to hold other people back, because the more voices, the better. We believe in actual democracy. So we're hoping you can help us out with a donation, sharing the stream, volunteering. And if you're in another state, volunteer in your state, see what they're doing. I mean, we have Butch Ware in California running for governor. We have Andy Ellis in Maryland running for governor. And we have people running all across the country. Greens already hold a little under 200 offices, but a lot of them are on the municipal level. Well, we need to kick it up a notch because what we have is not working. And I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to cut out a little early so I can make it to the protest and get on my frog costume. If I get some good pictures, well, we might post them next week. And Scott should be back next Saturday. Really looking forward to seeing all of you. And we also have a guest on Wednesday night, and I forgot to look it up ahead of time. But we will see you soon, and thank you so much. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
An uprising, we're rising up. It's an uprising, we're rising up. It's an uprising. Fight the power. It's an uprising.